Module 1, Lesson 14, Exercise 3. Now we're going to look at some strange things that we can do to both sides of an equation. But remember, we're looking at inequalities, so we need to find out what can we safely do and what is going to give us the bad news. Squaring didn't work with equalities, but maybe it'll be okay with inequalities. We were able to multiply through by a negative number, so the question is, can we still do that? And ignoring exponents didn't work out too well for Bonzo the first time. I don't think it's going to work out better this time. Let's find out. So these are the three examples we looked at, and the first one is take the equation and square both sides. I think the simplest way to do this is go ahead and create a number line, and it's pretty easy to find b. b is everything that's less than 6, so let's go ahead and put that on here. And we want everything less than or equal to 6, so we can have a solid dot, nice solid dot, and we slide down. And that's the answer to b is less than or equal to 6. But is it going to remain less than or equal to 6 over here? Well, let's think about this. This is negative 6 down here, and negative 6 times negative 6 is less than, it's equal to 36. What happens if we choose negative 10? I'm going to make it a little darker color here. So what happens? Negative 10 quantity squared is less than or equal to 36. 100 is less than or equal to 36. I don't think so. We got false. And so what happens is we find out that any number less than negative 6 would work. Negative 6 times 6, negative 6 is 36. Negative 5 is good. So what happens is with the square, we get a limit, and the only answers that are good here, leaving us with a lot of extras for this one. So they do not have the same answer. Let's move down to the next one. 5 minus c is greater than 2. So 5 minus 5 minus c is greater than 2 minus 5. Oh, yeah, that's right. So negative c, the opposite of c, is greater than negative 3. Now that's interesting. We have to read this very carefully. The opposite of c is greater than negative 3. So if we think about that, if the opposite of c is greater than negative 3, then that means that we've got to deal with positive 3. That would not work, but if we put in 2, the opposite of 2 is greater than the opposite of 3. So it looks like what we've got to do is grab that 2. And if we have 2, the opposite of 2 is bigger. Is the opposite of 4, negative 4, greater than negative 3? No. Is the opposite of 1? Let's see, that would be negative 1 greater than negative 3? Yes, that's true. So now we're starting to find our true values. Negative 3, not quite close. We can have everything up to negative 3. So our answer runs down this way. Well, let's find out what we get over here. Negative 5 plus 5 plus c is greater than negative 2 plus 5. What we've got here is c is greater than 3. And that is exactly, precisely the opposite of what we see here. Everything c is greater than 3. So those two, we can't just willy-nilly change signs on both sides. Caution. Now, do y squared less than 5 squared? Does that? Y squared is less than 5 squared. Now here again, this is very similar to the one up here where we could have negative 4 in here. That would give us 16, which would be less than 25. We could even come really close. We could pick negative 5 as long as we left the choice open. And so that would be the answers to these two. And we could pick everything in between. That's nice. But the second condition says y is allowed to be everything less than 5. That's this plus all of this. So what we find is we have 3 answers that are 3 ideas that we can't use. They're no good to us.